Hey, welcome to Still Sober with John Raven. If you're a sober person, hope you're staying sober. If you're not a sober person, hope you're staying sane. You may be noticing that that's different intro music. I have changed the intro and outro finally. Finally updated with royalty free music as to not be harassed anymore for using Screaming Trees intro and outro. I was doing it because I had a small enough audience that nobody gave a shit. I was never going to get reported. I was never going to, be under any kind of legal uh, thing. Nobody's going to sue me. Nobody's going to get cease and desist. But then they started, like, they started using bots on my ass. They had a bot that was recognizing the outro track, and so they were pulling the audio, the YouTube video. It's an audio, but it's on YouTube because I have it auto post on YouTube for no reason. Nobody goes, hey, I think I'll listen to a podcast. I'll go on YouTube and stare at nothing. Nobody does that. So, but it's on there anyway, and it was getting pulled not from regular YouTube, from like Russia or Eastern Europe, some shit, like somewhere is like that version. So I was, and not even like multiple countries, one country. I remember looking it up at one point going, okay, well, I hope those three people forgive me. But I didn't, I didn't change anything. But this past week, I finally um, started getting the automated messages from Spotify that, and it was done by AI or some automated whatever the shit. And then you're supposed to reply back, select and go, oh, it's no, I have permission to use this. Or another option is, oh, it's satirical. So you can use, or, and I selected it and sent it off, and I sat there and I realized that it annoyed me. It annoyed me more. I was more annoyed than I had the desire to keep using the same intro and outro music. And I knew at some point I'd have to deal with it, but until I actually dealt with it, I didn't realize how annoying it was to me and how I couldn't be bothered to just jump through a little bit of hoops to keep doing the same thing. So I decided, well, instead I would put forth the effort to just find music that's alt rock grunge sounding, that's clearly made by somebody who's like, hey, I recorded this for, use, donate, or whatever. So that's where we're at. I was annoyed into changing the podcast music now. I bring this up, not to be Captain Obvious, but to lead into a more. I had a bigger realization because of this one little thing, and I realized that most lifestyle changes that I've had was due to being annoyed. I mean, there's other factors, but the big one, the big reason was I was annoyed. And that's why I would, okay, I guess I'm going to stop doing that, or I'm going to do something different. The biggest example, and I brought it up on the podcast before, so many of you know this already. I quit smoking cigarettes. Now I vape. It's like, you're still hooked on nicotine. It's not cigarette smoking. There is a difference. Now I know because I can breathe and I'm doing all right. I'm not out of breath and wheezing and a bunch of other shit that was going on because I was smoking, not coughing up shit. So it's like, vaping's just as dangerous as smoking cigarettes. I don't think so. Maybe. Maybe in, you know, maybe in another 10 years, we'll find out something that it makes your gallbladder turn green or something. I'm sure there'll be some kind of new thing. It's like, oh, you've got um, cancer of the nostril or the the cancer of the uvula. Um, yeah, I just paused. By the way, I just paused because I had to look up. I'm like, did I fucking nail that? Uvula? Did I nail it? I did. I somehow remember that that's what that is. Little teardrop punching bag thing in the back of your throat. I was like, I can't believe I biology that shit. I nailed it. You know, intro intro to bio somehow got that. But but that's the thing is that I stopped smoking cigarettes not because my girlfriend at the time, now my wife, asked me to quit smoking. She didn't ask me to quit. All she did was she just asked me when I'd come back from being outside to have a cigarette, when I came back to just wash my hands because my hands reeked of cigarettes. And I did that for a bit. And then I suddenly just kind of like it had nothing to do with my health. Had nothing to do, yeah, your health. Yeah, money. You can, imagine the amount of money that you could save. Like those are nice. I was like, yeah, it'd be nice to be a little bit more healthy and not have to spend so much on fucking cigarettes. You're right. It would be nice. But that's not what did it. Ultimately, it was being annoyed at having to wash my hands every time I had a cigarette. And that bothered me. It bugged me. I didn't want, I don't want to do it again. I don't want to wash my hands. Fine. Vaping is uncool, but, I'll give it a shot. I'll start doing that. Not that it mattered because, I was over 40 at that point. It's like, really? You're in your 40s and you're worried about being cool? No, I'm worried about being annoyed. That's where I'm going to go. And that's the other thing. It's not, now granted, it's not the main reason that I decided to go get help and get rehab after my last OD. It's not it's not the sole reason. I definitely had many reasons. However, the biggest motivator at the time was I was annoyed at my parents giving me the ultimatum of like basically like we're gonna have to kick you out of staying with my dad at the time. He's like, I can't have you living at the house if you're gonna continue doing stuff, and just basically cutting me off. And I was annoyed at having to being confronted, and so I agreed to get help. Now, once I started getting help, then it required the effort. Then it required dealing with my baggage and dealing with all that bullshit. But the initial decision to start trying to get help was because I was annoyed. And the thing is, I think and everything else came about because of it's like once you make the decision, all right, now I got to fucking deal with this. I decided this is what I'm going to do, and then it comes into the work and the making decision and everything else. But I'm telling you, the fucking catalyst was being bothered. I've talked a lot about, hey, back the fuck off of social media and you're going to feel better. Don't dwell on the news. Pay attention to your surroundings. Deal with that as opposed to being online. Don't live online. Don't live in the news. Don't obsess about things that you can't change and can't control and make it and let it bear down. But the thing about it is that honestly, I discovered that I felt better with less news and with staying off of social media is because it was bothering me. It bugged the shit out of me. And I'm like, ugh, tired of these morons preaching at me on social media, or I'm tired of people who think they're funny and they're not. I'm just tired of all the ugh. It's annoyed by them. So I quit watching them, quit following different stuff, quit looking at different stuff. And yeah, I apparently I have a track record of being annoyed into something that is a healthier lifestyle. Or or I've been bothered enough to make a decision that turned out to be a good decision. For example, the deciding to no longer do comedy, quitting doing stand up. I was truly annoyed by crowd work, by fucking social media, by having to, this is how you're going to have to promote yourself. I'm like, I don't fucking want to do that. I'd rather not. I'd rather not have to deal with being on a shitty show with a bunch of people who aren't good yet. I was annoyed by having to, with the turnover in Austin in the different in the comedy scene, that having to start over and like, oh, now I got to start new relationships. I didn't want to do that. And in doing so, I stumbled upon doing a thing that I should have done, which is at some point you get aged out that what you think is funny is not funny anymore, or it shifts, it changes. What people like is different than what you were giving them. But also, you're old. You need to get the fuck out of the way for the newer people who have that fire and that grit and that desire to, they suck. But everyone sucks at that age. Some of them may be good eventually, but you got to get out of the way and let them see if they're good or not. And I don't think I would have, like, from just a standpoint of, do you want to, like, if somebody approached me and said, hey, you ever think about maybe hanging it up and letting the newer generation come in and you move on into doing something else? Like, I don't think I could have been talked into it that way. I think I had to have I think I'd have to get annoyed into it. And by doing so and just going, ugh, fuck this. And then looking back and going, no, I actually made a good decision, because these other people, most, especially like older successful comedians that you start listening, like if you're listening to their podcasts and stuff, they keep talking about how, like, no, I'm funny, I haven't lost the desire, I'm just as funny as I've always been. And you know That's a myth. You don't have to quit. You don't have to stop. You keep going. You keep working at your craft, and then you watch them. And at some point, they just dropped off. Like in the past 5 years, I've noticed some of the people that I thought was like, "Hey, man, they're still going. They're almost 60. Look how good they're doing. In their 50s, look how good they're doing." And then they put out some new material and it's dated as fuck. It's like, I'm sorry, is this 2018? Are you doing topics? Pre-COVID topics? Pre-COVID topics. You still being bothered by that? Really? PC culture? Is that what's bugging you in 2026? Wow. Still? That's the thing. That's the hill you're dying on right now. All the other shit going on, that's what you want to, we all talked about that. We all saw all of this over the past several years. You're just now coming around to that? Or did you write this 4 years ago and you just perfected it and releasing it now thinking, well, this is timely? It's not timely. There's, 4 years in between every Olympics, and there's 4 years between you when you wrote that fucking joke, or when you thought that you were going to write a joke about it and then posted it. Unless, of course, you are still obsessed about shit that's not, but that nobody else is. You're out of touch. You're fucking old, and it's showing. So many of them. There are some that aren't. There are some that can keep going. There are some that are really good. David Tell. There are some that they can go until till they can't anymore. But there sure are a lot that should have stopped. I'm just thankful that I was able to do that. That I'm like, no, I got out at the right time, even though it's by accident. I wasn't self-aware enough to do it. I was just fucking annoyed. That's all it was. I don't know how that can help you, but I'm not saying you should make big changes to your health and your lifestyle and your life based on what's on being bothered, being irritated. Being irritated into incremental lifestyle changes sustained over time. Just keep working at it until you're no longer irritated by just generally everyone around you. I'm not sure you can actually use that. It's funny to me that I've just kind of discovered that that's what makes me change. It's not the desire to change. It's the desire to not be bothered. Get out of my fucking face. Leave me alone. Well, we need you to do this. Fine. Now will you leave me alone? Apparently that's all it takes. StillSoberPod@gmail.com for any questions or comments that are positive to neutral. We will see you next week. All right. Later.